Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you guys all the books that I read in the year 2024. I made it a goal for myself to read over 5 books. I used to read about 10 for a good chunk of my life, and then in 2021 is when I stopped doing these videos and I got a full-time job and read literally less than 5 books, and I hated that because I'm a really big reader. I always have been, and the last few years I haven't been doing good with my reading. So a goal of mine this year was to read more, but also read more than 5 books. I read 22 books this year. Kind of crazy. I found a genre and books that I really like, and I am excited to show you guys all the books and talk about them. I'm going to show you all the books, rate them, and kind of give you a synopsis of them at the end. I'm also going to show you books that I'm currently reading, what I want to read, and some stats as well. So if you're interested, continue watching. The first book that I read this year was BTS's Beyond the Story biography. So this actually came out in the summer of 2023 for their 10-year anniversary. A really long time to read this book, just because at the time I wasn't like in the groove of reading. So I finished it in about January of this year, and I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. I honestly give anything BTS does 5 out of 5 stars. It just follows their life up until enlistment. That was last year. It talks about the rags to riches story that they can claim, because they are rags to riches story, and a lot of other cool things, how they became the biggest and best K-pop group out there. I gave the readability a 3 out of 5 stars just because it was translated to Korean, and this is also a first press book, so there was some grammar and editing issues. Next book I read is Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zayner. Honestly, probably butchering her last name. I'm gonna butcher a lot of people's last names, but this is a biography of Michelle, and she is the singer of Japanese Breakfast, if anyone wanted to know. So it's pretty much just about her life and her going through loss of her mother. This book made me cry. Books usually don't make me cry. This one made me cry. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars, and I highly recommend this book if you want to learn more about the Korean American experience and mourning the loss of a parent. The next 3 books that I read are in a trilogy, and also the lighting is a little harsh. Sorry guys. These 3 books actually got me back into reading, so they mean a lot to me. So it is the Shadow and Bone trilogy. I started reading these books because I loved the Netflix TV series Shadow and Bone, and it got canceled last year. It was renewed for season 3 and a spin-off, and then it was canceled, and that really irritated me. So I decided I would read the books so that I could get my Shadow and Bone kick back, and I'm really glad that I did because it made me fall in love with reading again. So the first book is, of course, Shadow and Bone. The second is Siege and Storm, and then the third book is Ruin and Rising. I gave them all 5 stars, but I would say that these 2 are the best out of the trilogy. This one was good. It was action-packed, but there were some scenes in here that pissed me off. Also, they barely included this book in the TV series, which was really sad. There were some cool scenes in here that I was like, they should have added this into the TV series, but they didn't. But if you don't know what Shadow and Bone is, it is literally about a girl, and they live in this country called Ravka, and it is cut in half by this giant darkness called the Fold. She treks across the Fold and finds out she possesses this power that is very rare, and so it just follows her life. It's all in first person, and it's a really nice young adult fantasy book to read. If any of you guys are interested, I highly recommend this book series. The next book that I read is Six of Crows. Six of Crows is a duology with this and Crooked Kingdom, which I did read but a little bit later in the year. This is a spin-off from Shadow and Bone. They're in the same universe, and they follow a different country in the universe. So this follows 6 dangerous outcasts, 1 impossible heist. they 6 outcasts go on this heist. And there's some cute little Easter eggs in here that connect it back to Shadow and Bone. This actually is in the timeline after Shadow and Bone. So I give this a 5 out of 5 stars. Obviously one of the best fantasy books out there. So good. And you can read this duology alone and not have to read Shadow and Bone, but if you're a person who likes to connect universes, I highly recommend reading Shadow and Bone first and then Six of Crows, but to each of their own. Then I was on a reading fantasy slump and it took me forever to get through Six of Crows, so I went back to romance and I read the first book in the Bridgerton novel, which is The Duke and I. At the time that I was reading this, Bridgerton season 3 came out, which was Colin and Penelope's story, and so I really wanted to read the books because I was seeing it all on TikTok and everything like that, and I love romance books, so I thought I would test it out. Really easy read. Read it in a week. I thought it was really similar to the first season of Bridgerton. The only thing is Daphne isn't like the most likable character. And I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars. It was good. It wasn't like the craziest thing. But yeah, if you're wondering, this follows the Bridgerton family, and each book is a different Bridgerton. So this is Daphne, the oldest daughter, and her coming out and finding a husband, essentially. The next book I read is actually the 3rd book in a trilogy, the Dial A for Aunties trilogy. So this is the 3rd book in the series, The Good, the Bad, and the Aunties. It came out earlier this year, and I picked it up to read because I really loved this trilogy. The Dial A for Aunties series is like a cozy mystery, so it has romance and mystery. It's like a murder mystery, but this just follows Meddy and her aunts and mother, and this was a super easy read. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, I believe, because I really just enjoyed this book series. The next book that I read is a book that I got in a TikTok shop, A Blind Date with a Book, and I was pleasantly surprised. This is not a very well-known author or book. On Goodreads it had literally 2,000 like reviews, so very small indie artist, and I read this and I was like, oh my god, this is so good. Everyone needs to know about this book. It is that good. But it follows a girl who is studying abroad in London, and she meets the Prince of England, and the world is ending. So they go on a little adventure, hence the name, The Prince and the Apocalypse, and it's so good. I read it really fast, and I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars or 5 out of 5 stars. I don't remember, but one of the two. And I also tabbed it. I tabbed it based on funny English humor and end of the world humor. So super good. There's a second book in the series that I plan on reading, but highly recommend. The author is Cara McDowell, I think. But she writes so good. The next book that I read is the second book in the Bridgerton series. This is The Viscount Who Loves Me. This is Anthony's story. This is by far my favorite Bridgerton book that I've read. I've only read 3, but this one is the best, so I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Anthony's story is really good, and it's like an enemies to lovers storyline, so I thoroughly enjoyed this, and yeah, nothing too crazy to say. It's a well-loved season and a well-loved book. So next books that I read are books that I read in the summertime, because what else? I'm gonna have to read some summary books. I read the Summer I Turned Pretty book series, and I was watching the TV series this summer, and I was like, I gotta read the books, I gotta find out what happens, just because they take so long to make seasons now, and I just couldn't wait. So the trilogy is The Summer I Turned Pretty, It's Not Summer Without You, and We Always Have Summer. When I was in like middle school and high school, she was a really big author. She made really good books, and I just never got around to reading them, and I thought, because I was watching the TV series, I will read her books. What did I give? I gave The Summer I Turned Pretty a 3 out of 5 stars. I gave It's Not Summer Without You a 3 out of 5 stars, and I gave We Always Have Summer 5 out of 5 stars. Sorry, 4 out of 4 stars. because of Conrad. I'm a Conrad girl, so I hope they end up together. The next book I read was the third book in the Bridgerton series. This is The Offer from a Gentleman. This is the Benedict story. He's actually the third book, but they switched it up and made Colin's season the third season, which it honestly doesn't make sense in the timeline in my opinion. But I thought this was a good book. This is better than Duke and I, but not as good as Viscount Who Loves Me. Sophie is one of the best characters so far. She's so great. Benedict is like okay. He's not as bad as what people said he was in the book series, but he was okay. But yeah, I'm really excited for their season that is coming up. And I think I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars as well, 3.5. It was a little bit better than Duke and I, but also not that good. The next book that I read is Crooked Kingdom. This is the second book in the Six of Crows duology. I took a break from fantasy to read all those romance books, and then I came back during the fall time to read this book. Very good. Not as good as Six of Crows, but very good. It was finishing up the kind of storyline of Six of Crows, so can't really give anything away. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars as well. I felt like Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom were really intense books, and they took me a second to get into them. Just because they took me a second to get into them doesn't mean they're not good. But it took me forever to get through this book, I'm not gonna lie. It was good. It was heavy and meaty, and the point of view switching was a lot for me, but it was still very good. I highly recommend this series though, but just be prepared for quite a lot to be thrown at you in the first few chapters. And the last 5 books that I read this year are in a series, and you're probably gonna guess what they are just because everyone reads these books, but we have the ACOTAR series, A Court of Thorns and Roses. I had actually had the first book for the longest time and I never got around to reading it, but my coworker started reading it, so I decided let's read it together. So I started reading it, and boy was I so happy that I did. This is so far one of the best series I've ever read, and I haven't read a lot of books, so I may change my mind, but I really thoroughly enjoyed this. I love the hit of fantasy and romance, and I'm a really big romance girly, so this just hit everything to me. It was also super easy to read and didn't like confuse me like the Six of Crows books did, and I felt like as someone who's getting back into reading, this is like a really important book to read because it like gets you started in a way, hence why a lot of people read these books first before they read other books. So thoroughly enjoyed this series. So we're just gonna give you my reviews and give you a little synopsis of all of them without giving things away. But we have the first book, which is A Court of Thorns and Roses. I give this a 4 out of 5 stars. Reason, it was super slow, but like literally this last chunk was chef's kiss. But it follows Farah, and she kills a wolf in the forest and then gets taken away by a fae to go to the Fae worlds. Then we have A Court of Mist and Fury, which I gave a 5 out of 5 stars. Honestly, 6 out of 6 stars if I could give it an extra star. This is the best book in the series, in my humble opinion. This is literally a love story. That's how good it is. Love story. Then we have A Court of Wings and Ruin. I also gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. Not a 6, but a 5 out of 5 stars. It was good. It was a continuation of Farah's storyline and story from these two, but it was a lot of war, so be mindful. Then we have A Court of Frost and Starlight. This is the mini novella that goes between this the last book and Silver Flames, and this like kind of like wraps up Farah's story with Reese, and I thought this was thoroughly enjoyable because it was like the winter solstice, and I'm a winter solstice baby, so I really enjoyed this, and I was reading it around the Christmassy time, so it made it even more fun. A lot of people give this a bad rap. It's good. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Next book, we have Silver Flame, which I finished reading like 3 days ago. But this is my second favorite book in the series. It was so good. I loved it. A lot of people either hit or miss if they like this one, but I really thoroughly enjoyed this. This is a 5 out of 5 stars. Second best in the whole storyline. This follows two different characters than the first 4. So, different points of views, thoroughly enjoyable. Cannot wait for the 6th book to come out, whenever that will be. Release the book, please, Sarah. We're begging you. I totally forgot to talk about the books that I, audiobooks that I listened to, and a physical book that I read but I don't have with me. It's called The Go-Giver. It's just like a book that I read that my boss recommended me reading, and also it's just like business and like how to like be a go-giver in the business world. And then I also read The People We Met on Vacation. Well, not read, I listened to it, and I really enjoyed The People We Met on Vacation. It was slow at first, but the last half of it was really good. And I'm excited for the movie, but I want to read more of Emily Henry, so yeah. Those are all the books that I read. Now I'm going to go in books that I'm currently reading and that I want to read in the new year. I'm currently reading Fourth Wing. I'm like this far in and I think it's so good. So good. After Fourth Wing, I want to read Throne of Glass. Oh, this is so heavy. I got this for my birthday and I am scared. People say that this is even better than ACOTAR, and I don't know how better you can get with ACOTAR. So, also, if anyone knows where to read Assassin's Blade, please tell me. I've heard different things, but I want the most emotional, thought-provoking placement, so please tell me. Something I also got for my birthday was this book. This is Norwegian Wood. A friend of mine got this for me. I have a little small collection of books recommended by Kim Namjoon of BTS, and this was one of them, so I'm excited to read that. We have the 4th book in the Bridgerton novel that I want to read. I also want to read King of Scars duology, which is also in the Greaserverse, so in the same universe as Shadow and Bone and Six of Crows. This is just a continuation of different storylines, so I want to get to this. And then I have My Roommate is a Vampire. This seems super interesting just based off the cover, and also it's based in Chicago, which I love. As for other books on my TBR, I really want to read Powerless. I would like to get to the Crescent City book series, more obviously a fourth wing, so like Iron Flame and Onyx something. That one is about to come out. I want to read the next book in the Prince and the Apocalypse series. It's called Heir Apparent. I want to get to some Abby Jimenez books. I would like to read the Crazy Rich Asian book series. Definitely more of the Bridgerton novels. Those are just some of the books that I want to read in the new year. Do I have any stats? Let's see. My Goodreads account is glitching out, but I do have my Fable reading challenge on here. Let's see. It says that my hot takes was Siege and Storm. I gave it a 5 out of 5 rating and people gave it literally less than 3 stars, which is funny. My hype train was A Court of Mist and Fury. Obviously, everyone has read that. I am in the top 10% of Fable members who have read every day. I had a 42-day streak, but I also started in October. I accomplished my goal by 146%, and my average rating is 4.2. I really wish I could see my Goodreads one because it tells me my biggest book and my smallest book. I believe my biggest book that I read was Silver Flames and my smallest book was Go-Giver, and less shelved was definitely this book for sure. That is all the books that I read in 2024. Hope you guys enjoyed, and if you see a book that you think that I'm gonna like just based off of the books that I read this year, please leave it down below. I would love to add more books to my want to read. Happy 2025. Hope you guys find some fun books to read, and I will see you guys in my next video. Goodbye.